So we have with us Acharya Prashant, the most watched spiritual guru on social media platforms. We're talking about 70 million people. He's an IIT alumni. We're here at IIT today. Of course, you are also an alumni of IIM. When you talk about Gitas, there's 17 forms of Gita that you teach in your teachings, which are online as well as offline. You're a poet. You've done theater. Is there anything that you can't do? You're a spiritual guide, a spiritual leader. How do you help people navigate through their problems and their issues and make them forget the problems at hand?
I primarily encourage them to see that the problems that they are fighting are not their real problems. There are just so many problems they see for themselves, and most of those problems deserve to be ignored, provided one can encounter the real problem. So I try to bring them to their one real problem, and that one real problem is the solution to a host of petty problems. If one must have a problem, let it be a real one and a big one, a worthy one, problem worth fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
A problem worth fighting for now is the North-South divide when it comes to delimitation. And that is something which is, been a very hot topic. It is concerning the population of our country. The southern states, they feel that they're being penalized for, controlling the population.
Right.
The northern states say that they have a large population, which is why they should have a higher number of representation when it comes to the parliament.
Right.
What in your view, is, how do you perceive delimitation as far as India is concerned? And do you feel it's necessary?
You see, the northern states were given a lot of time to catch up. And I'm speaking, and I must speak as an Indian, not as a northerner or a southerner. 1971 was the last actual delimitation. 76. We had the Constitution Amendment Act, and we said we are postponing it for some 30 years. And then we postponed it for another 30 years, close to 30 years.
Right.
And all this was so that the northern states could catch up. But that has not happened. In fact, the South has surged ahead in all the performance parameters. So when you look at it and when you see that the emergence of South as a better region is not something that it inherited. If you look at 1947, North, South, East, West were all struggling, more or less at the same level, the same plane. It has been because of resolute action and the right determination of priorities that the South has done well. It is not just about population control. Yes, we know that the fertility rate in South is almost one child less per woman. You have Tamil Nadu and Kerala at around 1.6, whereas UP and Bihar are 2.6, 2.7, I suppose even 3.0 Bihar, that's where it stands. It's not just about population. Obviously, population growth is a big factor in the North. It's about every aspect of human development. The very human development indicator. For South, it is touching almost 0.80.
Right.
And for most states in the North, and by North, I mean the Hindi belt.
Right.
For most states in the North, it is not even 0.60. That's a massive gap.
It's a massive gap, I agree. But when you talk about population, is population the only way of, having, is it linked to political power? Is that the only link that you see going forward?
No.
In terms of, when we talk about the southern states, they are saying that they have no problem in the numbers that they have. They have a problem with the exponential rise when they'll see towards the northern states.
Yes.
And that rise that we will see. And do you feel that this increase in number of representation is fair? Indira Gandhi didn't do it when she exercised delimitation. Atal Bihari Vajpayee didn't do it when he exercised delimitation. In the United States, the House of Representatives is capped at 435. Since 1913, their population has increased 4 times over.
Right. See, if I will take the first part of your question first. Is it only about the population? No, not at all. we set HDI, and HDI covers every aspect of human development. So you have infant mortality rate, you have malnutrition rates, you have poverty rates. The North is not just a little ahead of the South, it's miles ahead of the South. You look at the status of women, the gender empowerment measure.
Right,
You
the
look at
empowerment of women is something that, they have been praised about.
Yes. And you have, it's not just subjective. You have very objective numerical figures indicating where
As
the
well as the
South is.
literacy rate, as well as the healthcare system, whether it's the education system, whether it's the healthcare system, wouldn't you say
average
Tamil Nadu is being rated as the health capital of the country?
Yes, of course. And the average person in the South lives almost 10 years more than the average person in the North. Similarly, the poverty rates in the South, when it comes to measuring multidimensional poverty as of 2021, are like 1%, 4% in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, other states. In the North, they are almost 10 times if we take UP and Bihar. If you take the number of years the average person spends in school and college in education, the average person from the South spends almost 4 or 5 years more than the average person in the North.
Right.
If you look at the portfolio of loans, for what purpose is the North picking loans versus the South? The South is
the
picking
contribution to the physical development of the country. If you see the
not
southern
just physical,
states.
no, we are not talking about physical yet. We are talking about the inner part. We are talking about education. We are talking about equality. We are also talking about casteism. And in all these things, the South has chosen to be way ahead of the North.
Absolutely.
The key word is choice. The
Yeah.
key word is choice because
Exemplary.
because when it was 1947, as we said, we were almost at the same level. So what has happened thereafter is a result of conscious choice. And it has been a choice in the direction of nation building.
Okay.
And therefore, the nation has to reward that kind of choice and behavior.
As opposed to penalizing.
As opposed to penalize it, well said. You see, even if we say, for example, that the seeds of the South won't be reduced, it's a pretty misleading thing to say, because their representation as a proportion would greatly decline. Not only is actually the South going to suffer, even the Northeast and also some states in the West, they are going to suffer because of this. It's mostly the Hindi heartland that's going to be overrepresented if delimitation happens as per population today.
Which includes states such as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. Those are the main states.
Those are the states that would benefit. And that's a travesty because, you see, we have to look at the situation as an Indian. As an Indian, I would want that the policy making is concentrated in more educated, more conscious, and wiser hands. And as the situation stands today, one has to objectively admit that those who have made better decisions and are in a better position to make better decisions for the entire country, they come more from the South.
Would you say, instead of increasing the number of MPs, would you say freeze the number of MPs, but instead increase the number of MLAs instead?
No, that's a totally different thing. Constitution talks of both the things. It talks of delimitation of parliamentary constituencies as well as the constituencies for legislative assemblies. So that's a totally different thing. Obviously, that's a matter more or less internal to the state. For the state, within the state, you can obviously again demarcate the constituencies and increase the number of seats in the assemblies. And that would mean that per seat, a lesser number, a more optimal number of voters, people would be represented. And that is entirely fair. That is perfectly fine. And that's also not at the root of the controversy here. The controversy pertains to parliamentary delimitation. That's where the controversy is. And I think such a delimitation is not going to be fair. In fact, to append the whole debate, I would go on to say that why should we not rather incentivize and reward the South?
Absolutely, but the southern leaders are saying this is a political assault when it comes to the southern states.
It will become that way because typically the North and the South have followed different patterns of representation in the parliament, that is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. So if you give an overwhelming weightage to the North, you will not just find the North being overrepresented, you will also find particular parties and particular ideologies being overrepresented
Right.
in the parliament.
Absolutely.
So their fears are justified.
Absolutely. So would you say that, as some would, usually say, that delimitation is basically a political strategy in disguise? Would you agree?
That's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a tool of equity. It was meant to be a tool of equal representation, not just between the North and South, but also to ensure that the weight of the vote of the average voter does not fall beyond a point. You see, if 10 lakh people elect a representative, then the weight of one vote is, 1 upon 10 lakh. Whereas if that same constituency has 30 lakh voters,
Right.
then the weight has fallen by 3 times. If we have to address this situation, a method would be to simply increase the number of seats, Lok Sabha seats, from each state, keeping the proportion of seats exactly the same. So, for example, if today you have 80 seats from one state and 40 from another, let it be 120 from the one and 60 from the other. So you have increased seats by 50% for both of them.
Right. Of course, the argument is that the population should represent the number of seats, which is, like we just discussed, is very unfair to the southern states that have actually controlled the population. They've been praised in the past by the government for controlling the population. Will this not deepen the regional divide when it comes to the north and the south, as well as the rural and the urban?
See, it is not population per se that deepens the divide. We have to remember that population itself is driven by something deeper, which is education, mindset, and ideology. That's where the divide will come. People are not divided merely by numbers. People are divided by their minds and their ideologies. See, if the people of the North, they continue to believe in caste, whereas South has left caste behind. If people of North continue to believe in their old traditions and the rural ways of thinking and living, whereas Tamil Nadu is almost 50% urbanized. That's where the problem will start arising, because now the thoughts won't align. And that would be a problem, rather a threat to the nation itself, to the integrity of the nation itself.
Right.
So population is not something that you can just control on its own. Population gets controlled when women are empowered, when
Right.
there is education, when there is an anti-caste environment, when you are focusing on doing the right things in life rather than just amassing power, when there is a thought towards entrepreneurship, when you think about obtaining better studies and getting better jobs by going abroad, going to other countries, and that's a totally different kind of mindset. When there is better sanitation, better roads, better law and order, better policing, if you look at the attitude.
Let's just compare the contribution of the southern states in comparison to the northern states.
On
In
which
various
parameters?
aspects, whether it's healthcare, education, fiscal contribution, in each and every regard, whether it comes to women empowerment, something that you're very passionate about.
You see, when the first thing that you must compare is the tax revenue itself. The average person in the South contributes a tax revenue not 10-20% more than the average northerner, but actually 100% more than the average northerner. That's his contribution, not just to the state, but to the central finances.
Right.
And he does not really get an equal or justified return from the center when it comes to the devolution of taxes. It is not really in the favor of the South. So you could even argue and say that when it comes to development, the South is in some way sponsoring or at least financing the North.
Right.
When it comes to the number of women that go outside and work, which is your female labor participation rate, FLPR, that too is higher in the South by a big margin compared to the North. In North, I'm not including Punjab, I'm not including the more western states.
Yeah.
So it's not just North, I'm including the Hindi heartland,
Yeah.
what you would call as the
The largest states.
Yes. South is the place where North should also have been.
Right.
And so...
And the South Indian is very proud of that. And
justifiably proud of that. They should be proud of that.
Yes.
And as Northerners, we should not take offense. We should, in fact, take inspiration.
Absolutely.
If what the South has achieved, the North too can, and we should learn from the South, our brothers from the South, and see what we can do for ourselves.
Right, absolutely. So, how does one maintain national integrity when the political tools seem to divide?
By ensuring justice, first of all. If a people start feeling that they have been shortchanged, there is no way they are going to remain content and silent. There would be lingering frustration, anger, and that would be vented out in due course, and that's not going to be good for the nation. So if the South has performed well, let alone penalize them. I'm saying actively, let's reward the South, please, for our own sake. And let's please see that the South is our own country. Why should I identify myself with a particular region or state?
Right.
Kerala is my country.
Right.
Kerala is my country. Kerala is India. So if Kerala is rewarded, India is being rewarded. If Kerala is rewarded, I'm being rewarded.
Absolutely.
And instead, if we take a partisan approach and do not deal a fair hand, that's neither ethical nor good for national integrity.
Right. When power is chased by numbers, how do you see it through a spiritual aspect or a philosophical viewpoint?
Wonderful. Lovely question. You see, numbers belong to the material world, the world of quantity, the world of diversity. This. That's where numbers lie, right? Things that can be enumerated, counted. Right. So that's the material world. Whereas spirituality is about quality, not quantity. It's not about counting how much you have. It's about seeing what you have or who you are, how much it lends or adds to your quality, the quality of life.
Right.
So in the discussion that we currently are in, South has the quality, North has the quantity.
That's right. Absolutely.
South has the quality.
Well described, yes.
North has the quantity. And the spiritual approach would always say, favor quality over quantity.
Any day. Right. Of course. So what about governance? Should there be more merit when it comes to education, when it comes to merit, when it comes to values and wisdom, as opposed to arithmetics, as opposed to numbers?
You see, if you look at how the South votes, or what the manifestos there are, versus how the North votes, there is a great dissonance. I'm not saying that petty issues have evaporated from the South, or that it is corruption-free, that's a paradise, a thing of ideal utopia. No, none of that. But it's definitely much better when it comes to the whole electoral process than the North. So people are voting more on the right issues. People are demanding better amenities. People are getting better amenities. I was talking about policies, about policing at some point. It got interrupted. You see, the state of policing. I was reading a report, comparison of various states. So I just bundled together the southern states, and the policing there is in a different dimension compared to how we experience policing on our streets. Delhi, UP, Haryana, the way we approach police and the way the whole system, the policing system is imagined and envisaged, that's very different from how it is in the South. The police is more of a service provider, an efficient service provider. So the entire atmosphere is very different. The aspirations of the youth are different. In North, the biggest thing is a government job. And right. Even among government jobs, if you can get a job in the police, wow, fascinating. Huh? That's not the aspiration in the South.
Right.
You have many, many more engineering colleges per capita in the South than in the North.
Right, right. We would totally agree on that. And of course, my last question regarding this would be, is population alone capable of deciding what the political power should be?
No. Democracy that just counts votes is bound to be flawed democracy. Therefore, democratic conditions have to be first created before you can have successful democratic processes. And the foremost among democratic conditions is education. Education, equality, justice, empowerment. When these things are there, then you can count votes and be assured that every vote has been rightly cast and has equal value. Otherwise, votes can be very easily manipulated, not at the level of EVMs necessarily, but at the level of the voter himself. You see, if the voter is ignorant, illiterate, and gullible, why would the leader, the political party, not manipulate him?
Right, absolutely.
He is vulnerable, very vulnerable, and that would result in a very flawed democracy. In fact, the leader would have a stake in pulling down the voter just to get his vote. And that kind of democratic system is in fact going to cost the electorate a lot. The leader comes to the voter and corrupts his mind even more.
Right.
In the time of the elections. So you cannot have democracy without the right kind of education and empowerment.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your inputs in regard to delimitation and how the southern states need to be rewarded for controlling the population.